Let's get into some shade. All right, my friends, welcome to the Out of Tune Podcast. My name is Rick. Go ahead, tell me your name all at once. Oh, I heard them. I heard all of them. Hey, when you were a kid, did you ever watch Romper Room? When at the very end, then this is going to really date me, I know, because this is kind of a boomer thing, and I'm the tail end of the boomer. I'm not a boomer. The person who did the Romper Room, the teacher, whatever, would look through a mirror, and she would do this kind of witchy incantation. It was like a little poem, and then they would kind of flip away from the TV, and then when she came back, she was holding like an invisible mirror. So she's looking through the mirror, and then this little incantation happens, and then she comes back, and the mirror is like not there. She could see right through the TV. She could see you. And then she would mention all these names. She would see, I see David, I see Marianne. And she would just like name names, of course. And I was like, I don't know, 4, 5. And if she ever said my name, she saw me. She saw me. The witch saw me. We fell for things like that when we were kids. It was so easy. So how are you doing out there? Let me say, I don't like spending a lot of time getting into like what happened and apologies and things like that. But I do feel like I need to kind of address the fact that it was just like one week I was ready to do a Thanksgiving show, and here we are just right before Christmas. I don't know what happened. I really don't know. I don't want to apologize because time happened. I got involved in stuff, and next thing I know, I'm my show. So here, does this happen to you? This is what happens to me. This is the kind of person I am. Maybe everybody's like this. I don't know. But when you have an expectation to do something and you don't meet that expectation, and like the expectations pile up in my head. And not only that, but I feel like the result has to be greater than the original result was supposed to be. So here I was, as you will probably remember, before Thanksgiving, I'm talking about doing a show Monday and Thursday. I'm going to go back to the schedule. I'm going to do the 2 shows a week, which I had intended to do. I was ready to do it. And then I don't know what happened. Next thing, now I'm sitting here 2 weeks before Christmas, I think, and I didn't do a single show, and I don't know where they went. I just know that next thing I'm starting to think, oh, I missed that show. Okay, I'll make up for it with this show, and then I didn't make up for it. And then it's like, oh, I'll make up, and then like all of those expectations start piling up on me to where the only way that I feel like I can come back, I have to do like a mega show. I have to do like the best podcast I've ever done to make up for the fact that I didn't do a podcast on time. Do you put that pressure on you? I do. And it's not fun, and it adds to the anxiety, and it adds to the stress. And I never can meet those things. So I just have to kind of come to a point. That's what I did today. It's just like, do it. Just do the dang show. Don't worry about it. You don't have to have the greatest topics in the world. You don't have to do the greatest show that's ever been done. Just do it. Do a show. People don't like it. How many podcasts are out there? There's a billion podcasts. If they don't like my podcast, get out of here. If you don't like the podcast, go listen to something else. I'm sure some washed up, no-name person has a podcast better than mine. So go listen to it. No, don't. Please listen. I need the audience. All right. I don't want to get into I'm not. I'm just telling you that's what happened. So I got a few things to talk about. I'm walking a tightrope here, people. Tightrope, people. I have some things I want to talk about. Maybe kind of serious things. But yeah, I don't have a script. I don't like doing scripts. What's wrong with me? I was a theater person. I have scripts. I did stand-up. I couldn't do stand-up unless I had a script in my hand. You know, there's a lot of people who just get up on stage and be funny. They could say things. I remember things. I was not that person. I've read that about Steve Martin. Steve Martin, when he was doing stand-up, he had to have it perfectly scripted. And if someone said anything, it would throw him off a little bit. You can't do that anymore. But that's the way I was. I had to have a script, and I think that was my theater background. I hate doing scripts with podcasts. I just don't. I like to have, and I do. I have my little outline of what I'm going to talk, what I think I'm going to talk about. A lot of times I'll write down my outlines, and there's like 6 things I don't even talk about. So I'll save them for another show. And so I put them on my little phone here on what I'm going to talk about, which means halfway through the show, my phone's going to, the screen's going to go off, and I got to put the password in, and I'm going to get all confused. But anyway, see, this is why I need a script. Seriously. But I don't like scripts because I like spontaneity. I just like something pops in my head and I can talk to you about it. I don't get the opportunity to sit around and talk to a whole lot of people. I don't have the kind of job where I interact with a lot of people. I'm an artist. Here's what I'm doing for Christmas. I got contacted by a local, what should we call it? Home improvement mega store. I'm not going to say the names. I live in Atlanta. You figure it out, people. Anyway, so this store has their employees wear aprons. Can you figure it out? Yeah, it's a puzzle. And so apparently they wanted to give as a gift. See, this is why I don't want to talk about it, because I don't want to give away the gift. I don't want to give away the surprise. They want to put names on their aprons and give them to their whoever they're giving these to. So I have about 200, close to 200 aprons that I'm putting names on. I'm airbrushing names. It's like back when I was a youngster in my 20s, airbrushing up in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, putting names on people's clothes. There's a certain amount of fun to it, but there's also a big amount of cheese to it. It's a very cheesy thing. It's kind of dated. It's kind of kitschy, but I don't mind. I'm a commercial artist. I do what people pay me to do. I don't care. I do fine art. So I get my artistic relief. Is that the word? My artistic fulfillment doing fine art. But I also do commercial art, and I don't have a problem with that. People say, "Hey, can you make me look like a dog? I'll pay you $20," and I'll do it. I'm like a artist prostitute. There are certain things I won't do. I almost just changed my rating just now. See, I try to keep my podcast clean. You who have listened to me know that I've gotten blue in past podcasts. Said some things just because it's funny. I'm not normally I don't work blue. I don't work dirty necessarily, but if it's funny, it's funny. And I try to keep this one kind of clean on purpose. And but if there's a word I need to say, I'll say it. I don't care. There's no rules. I'm the boss. I don't work for corporate podcast America. I work for me, and I can do what I want to do. I forgot what I'm talking about. Anyway, I have my door open to my studio today. I couldn't close it because I've got some boxes in front of my door that I've got to move. And so my cat has now felt like that he can be a part of the podcast. And he's climbing up on my podcast table, causing trouble. And this little cat, he will not take no for an answer for anything. He believes he's the ruler of the world. And so if right in the middle of my podcast you hear a gunfire, that's me trying to take care of that problem. I love my kitty. What I want to talk about today, listen, I got a few things I want to talk about. I can put on some glasses. Have you done your shopping, Christmas shopping? I haven't even started yet. I gotta get in on that real soon. I just want to say, I'm going to go back, kind of revisit. That's what I've been doing. I've been putting names on aprons in my studio right now. I have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of aprons, and they all have these big strings on it. It looks like a giant squid has invaded my studio with these tentacles everywhere. It's insane. I need to take a picture. But yeah, I'm kind of festive. I'll talk about it here in a minute. There's a limit to my festivities, I think. But anyway, listen, let me ask you a question. It's people baking now. I know that it's a season for cooking. A lot of people cook. My wife cooks. Excuse me. She makes cookies, and she hasn't even started this year. See, I think that's part of the problem. I feel like the holidays kind of like just popped up, and they were like here, and you have to deal with them, and they're not going to go away. I don't think I was prepared for them this year, and it feels so fake. It feels like it's not really here. I feel like we're doing a walkthrough, but it's actually the real thing, and it's almost done. And Thanksgiving came and went so fast, and I didn't. It was like, what is this happening? And it was happening, and it did happen, and I wasn't ready. And now Christmas is going to be the same thing. I'm trying to get ready for Christmas. I'm trying to do, and Christmas, you need to kind of get ready because you got to, I don't know what you got to buy stuff. Who says? We just got to do we got to do the Christmas thing, people. We're robots. Be Christmassy. Enjoy the Christmas. So, yeah, I hadn't really started yet. I'm trying to start. I'm getting ready to start. My wife is dropping hints on what she wants, and I'm like, uh-oh. Is it too late to order? Because I don't know if it's going to get there in time. But baking, she hasn't started doing the baking yet, but she will make some cookies, and I can't eat cookies. I'm on a diet. I'm trying not to go too much, but I did. So I'm trying to go with healthier options. We all do that, and as I get older, it's important to go with more healthier options. But I'm cursed with. I don't like sweets. I do like a cookie. Every once in a while, I'll eat a box of cookies every once in a while, but I'm generally not a sweet person. I'm a salty kind of person. That's my snacks. So when I'm trying to set up a diet alternative, I have trouble finding snacks that I can like. I don't normally like, people say, go with fruit. And fruit's not a snack for me. It's too sweet. I don't like it. I don't reach for it. It's not satisfying. Now, I like fruits. I like almost all fruits, but that's a meal. That's food. It's not a snack. Snack is something you're not supposed to eat all the time, right? So we'll have like mixed nuts or something like that. Like I love Chex Mix. Oh, for Christmas, got to do Chex Mix. You got to buy peanuts and pour them in because they don't do that anymore. You got to do it yourself. Got to help yourself with the peanuts. I guess it's allergy stuff, right? Make my own Chex Mix. That's also good. But potato chips, that's the thing. I'm a potato chip guy. I love the chips in almost any form or fashion. Don't like sweet chips. Not a big kettle chip guy. You might be. Again, sweet, not for me. So I'm trying to find what works in the chip department that's healthy, and there's not a lot of options. Now, you can do pretzels. It's kind of healthy. Some of them don't have fat, and so that's sort of good. You get the salt. Salt's not good for you, right? If you're watching your sodium, you got to be careful. So what I discovered is Lay's baked potato chips. Lay's baked. That's like the healthiest you could get. I've compared. I've done the shopping. You can't get any better. And I'm not saying that Lay's baked potato chips are healthy. Not at all. Probably not. But they're the healthiest option that I found. If you know another better option that's healthier, please send me a reference, send me a suggestion. I want to know. Now, if I could find Lay's baked low sodium, that's good. It's like salt, less salt, because they're very salty. Less salt, I think would be good. I could do that every once in a while. Don't have to do it all the time, just I'm going to get the craving. So I decided, going to make my own chips. Have you done that? Boy, that's like deciding you're going to make a big giant cookie, right? It never, ever works. It's not going to work. But I tried it. So I sliced all of my chips up. I sliced them really, really thin. I got them good and thin sliced. I put them in the air fryer, and I couldn't get it right. I don't know what kind of witchcraft magic that they use in making the chips, but you can't duplicate it. Now, I think if I had a deep fryer, I don't even know. I've done that before. You try to deep fry them, it just burns them. So I don't know how they get that done. What I've seen, like how they're made, that TV show. I've watched them make chips, and it looks interesting. And they got these little conveyor belts that kind of dip down into the oil and come up, and they look so golden, just perfect chips. And I can't duplicate it. My chips burn, and they taste like crap. So, but I kind of feel like if I can make chips that taste like crap, maybe I won't want to eat them. That would be a good thing, right? If you know the secret of chips, man, that might be my Christmas wish this year. If I know the secret of chips, I read that the price of concert tickets are going up. Now, how does this happen? How do people afford concerts? I've been to a few, went to a few this year, but it's hard to talk about without sounding like an old grandpa, like when I was a kid. I don't want to do I walk to school uphill in the snow. That's not what I want to do. And obviously things change. I understand. But I just remember in college paying $11 to see Van Halen. Van freaking Halen. $11 a ticket. I was standing in I was close enough to get sweat on me for $11. They also ruined my hearing for the rest of my life. We'll talk about that in another podcast. But still, went to see, I think the last concert I saw was Jason Isbell in Savannah, Georgia. And I believe tickets were in the 60s, maybe $60. Which may be cheap for what he wasn't his whole band. It was just him. Jason's pocketing the whole thing. Good for you, Jason. But, I worked hard for that. I know you worked pretty hard, too. Wrote some good songs. But all people affording concert tickets for $200 more. How do the young people putting down? How do you see I know some people who see a concert, once a week? Twice a week sometimes. How do they afford that? But tickets are going up. I've been reading a lot of stories about how a lot of bands can't even afford to tour. It's too expensive. I don't know. Music industry, it's weird. But a concert, be prepared, people. If you're going to see a concert, you're going to pay for it. And what happens is people back off and I can't afford that. I'm not going to go. And so they don't make enough money. And so they have to raise their concert tickets again. I just think lower them. Try lowering them. Maybe more people will come see you. Sell merch. You could sell things. You'll make more fans. See, this is why people don't ask me things like this. I have the solution to a lot of problems, but no one comes to me because I'm in my studio airbrushing aprons from home improvement superstores. And they don't think that's important. Oh, I got something I want to talk about, but I'm not going to talk about it. It's too controversial. It goes into some stuff I'm just not going to talk about, okay? Did another time. I'm not in the mood. That's one of the things I do want to talk about. I'm going to talk about it in a few minutes. This is something that's hard to talk about. But I want to talk about this first. I was reading an article about people who talk to themselves. Now, maybe you're one of those people. I remember when I was in I guess I was in college, and I bought an album, LP, vinyl album. That's what we had. We used to listen to those back when we were walking uphill to school in the snow, and concert tickets were low. But I bought an album. It was Saturday Night Live, the original cast, Saturday Night Live. It was like their best sketches or something like that. And it was funny. It was really cool. And I remember there was, I believe the introductory monologue was done by Lily Tomlin. And it was pretty funny. But I remember a joke. I've never forgotten this joke. I don't know why. It's not the funniest joke in the world. But she made the comment that why can't we pair up the street people who are talking to themselves with other street people who are talking to themselves so it looks like they're having a conversation. That was kind of funny and inventive, and I liked that, and it just stuck in my head. Now, we live in a society where people talk to themselves appearance wise, they're talking to themselves. They're really not talking to themselves. They're talking to other people because they have Bluetooth headsets in their ears, and you never know if they're talking to you. And sometimes you're sitting in a restroom and someone starts talking and you think they're talking to you and you're talking back, and they're really talking to someone else in a public restroom while they're using it. That's just wrong. Stop it. But there should be a rule that people can't talk to someone if they're within a certain radius of you, so you don't think that they're talking to you. Like in an elevator, they can't talk to someone else because you think they're talking to you and you want to talk back. And if you don't, then they think you're rude. It's a no-win situation, right? But we just have we're a society of people talking all the time. I don't know why, but some people have decided that you need to hear their phone calls while they're sitting in their car. So they blare them out on a PA system loud into public. They're in their car. You're hearing their conversation. They think it's important that you hear what they're talking about. I don't understand that one. I don't understand a lot of things, people. Yes, I'm an old man. I'm crazy. I'm going to complain about everything. Van Halen was $11. But yeah, so there are some people who actually talk to themselves. They're not on the Bluetooth. They're not crazy street people, but they're chatting with themselves. I've known people like this my whole life. Do you know people? Are you one of those people? Like, I know people when they're like cleaning their house or they have a problem and they'll just start chatting with themselves. My mother did this a lot. She would address herself by her name, right? Do you know people who do that? Just like right in the middle of the conversation, they'll be like, well, Sharon, what do you think you're going to be doing today? And I'm like, oh, okay. They address themselves by their names. That's very foreign to me. Even if I was talking to myself, I wouldn't call myself, because I'm not really this name, right? I don't know. Maybe I'd have a nickname for myself. Be like, well, the king, what do you think you're going to be? I call myself the king. I like to be the king. That would be the nickname. That's what I would refer to myself. But I think it's weird talking to yourself. So I was reading this article about people talking to themselves and how a lot of times they solve problems better. They're much more of a problem because they can work it out verbally instead of just in their head. And in your head, you have so many ideas that are just like pounding, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of cut through all of those ideas and think out loud, basically, is what they're doing. Which makes sense, but I'm uncomfortable with that. I'm uncomfortable with talking to myself out loud, I think, in most situations. It said that a lot of people who are only child, if you're an only child, you probably talk to yourself out loud more. Or if you spend a lot of time alone as a child, I don't know, maybe you had older siblings or something. If you're just the kind of person, hold on just a second. Excuse me. A little allergy thing going on there. I have coffee with me, trying to keep the coughing at a minimum. If you have a profession like me where you spend a lot of time alone, you tend to talk to yourself. But I don't do that. I guess, are you an artist? If you're an artist, do you spend time talking to yourself? I'm curious about that, how much it actually helps, and is it more productive? And do you find that you take care of your issues and problems more? It's fascinating to me. Now, I will say this. And I used to do this a lot more than I do now, but there was times when I would I'd be going on a road trip, sometimes like a 9-hour road trip. And I would I would do characters. I would do stand up. I would just go crazy. It's one of those things like you don't want anybody else to hear. You don't want to record that. But you discover creative things. Like, I'm a cartoonist. You could find ideas for cartoons or whatever, just doing weird characters. And there were running characters I would do every time I would get in my car. Same person, same thing, same chat. I don't remember what they were now, but I've kind of done that since I was a kid. Little weird characters and things. I've noticed, wow, now that I'm saying these things out loud, I'm kind of wondering maybe I am that person, because this is a weird thing. I don't even know if I should say this out loud. Like if I lose something and I'm walking around trying to find it, okay, this is it's not really embarrassing. It's just true. It's weird. I get it. But I have this kind of Australian accent that I'll do anytime I lose something. I don't know why it's Australian, but it is. And I'll just break into this Australian accent and I'll be like, well, it was over here. Did I put it over here? No, it's not. And why do I do that? I just remembered that. Maybe I am an out loud talker. An Australian accent out loud talk. That was not in the article about talking in an accent. I don't know. Are people more creative when they do that? Anyway, I just it made me think about that. How I don't know. In some ways, it makes me uncomfortable, but now I'm realizing I do it. I need to get into it. I'm going to have to think about it. I'm going to have to get into that shite and find out why I'm doing. And I've never understood the Australian accent. When I'm doing it, I'm always like, oh, I must have lost something because I'm talking in my Australian accent. Okay, I've shared that. So I'm going to just keep going. I'm going to share something with you. I don't... I haven't shared this much. Sorry, I'm getting a frog in my throat. Allergies again. I haven't shared this much with anybody. I kind of shared it with my wife this week, and I think she was like, okay, whatever. I don't think she knew I was actually sharing something. Do you do that when you just like work up the nerve to say something or talk about something and you do it and the people don't know that it took some nerve to talk about? It's not something that's important to them or they understand. So it's just kind of like, almost like dismiss it. Like, oh, okay, well, whatever. And you're like, do you realize how hard it was for me to say that? Have you ever done that? All right. So I want to talk about something now. And I don't know, this is not... There's a certain amount of shame involved, but it's not like the most shame thing in the world. But it's just something I'm going through, and I can't figure out why I'm going through it. I don't know if it's a character flaw. I don't understand if it's an age thing. I don't understand if it's a chemical thing. I don't know. But I have gradually been struggling with this loss of enthusiasm and motivation in almost everything. And I can't understand where that comes from. So I've always been, I'm not a driven person. I'm not the kind of person that just like, I set a goal and I'll beat myself to death to get to that goal. I'm not that person, but I am a kind of person where if I want to do something, I just start doing it. I go and I do it. And a lot of times I accomplish what I set out to do. Not always. But I would consider myself a fairly motivated person when I'm trying to do something I want to do. If that makes sense. Not a driven person, but definitely a motivated person. I've become a person that I've lost motivation. There are things that I've always found joy in, or that I do find joy in, and I'm going to use an example. I'll just say art. That in my mind, I have started coming up against this idea of like, why? What's the purpose? Why do that? It's just a waste of time. And I don't know why that is there. And I've had some of the, not all the time, but I've had some problems even with the podcast. It's like, should I even be doing this? I love doing the podcast. One of my favorite things I do. Like if I had to get rid of most of this stuff in my life, the podcast I would still do, even though it's not a huge podcast, not a big seller. I don't have a giant audience. I know all of that. I don't do it for those reasons. I just have fun doing it. Something I enjoy. It's a way I can communicate with some people. So it's just, I like doing it, but I found myself telling, and is that why I took a big break? I don't know. There might have been some issues where I'm just like, why? What's the purpose? Why do it? I mean, holidays, I'm up against Christmas and it's just like, is it worth doing? Should I even be doing it? Now, I started reading some I don't know, some analysis on that, some ideas on why, because it's a thing. Other people have it. And here's why it's hard to talk about, first of all. Number one, it just seems like my fault. People just like, well, really? Just do something. So it kind of in the same way, like depression. If someone's depressed and they tell someone, I've been depressed, a lot of times people's response will just be like, well, why aren't you happy? Or go get happy, or stop being sad. That's the way that it's just like, that's how they classify depression. Depression means sad, so stop being sad. And I feel like that's kind of what this is like. It's like, I don't have motivation, and it gets classified as lazy. Stop being lazy. Just get up off your ass and do something. But it isn't that. It's not that at all. And I believe that's why I haven't talked a whole lot about it, is because I don't know how to classify it. I don't know how to make it something that people will understand. It's just easily dismissed at this point. Now, maybe you go through the same, or have gone through the same thing, and you can understand it. But there is a certain amount of shame that can be attached to it, because it does kind of come off as your fault. It does kind of come off as looking like laziness. I just don't want to do anything. So if you have projects that you are supposed to do, it's hard to get motivated to even do those projects. Now, one of the things that I read over and over about this is it can be confused, or sometimes it is associated with depression. And I don't think that is my case. It could be the case on other people, but for me, I don't feel, I've been depressed before. I've been caught into some heavy depression. I don't see or feel this as a depression thing. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying I don't recognize that. When I really try to get in and look at the feelings and what I feel like is happening, it doesn't feel like it's a form of depression. But it does feel like some kind of a chemical thing. It feels like something's missing in my brain. I did read that it could be a lack of dopamine. So I don't really know how to get dopamine back in my life. I know there are certain things you could do to increase dopamine. I don't know. Maybe I need that. But it's just, when I do have a project, sometimes it's really hard to get motivated. And last year and most of this year, I've been kind of like on fire creating art. And I sold a lot of art this year, which is great. But I also in my head know, now that I've sold that art, I need to replace it. I've got to restock the art. And that involves getting in and making new art. And I cannot motivate myself to do it. I don't know why. I've never been in that situation before, where my brain just says, why do it? Why? What's the point? What's the purpose? That's a lot of it. What's the purpose? I can't figure out, and I could say, well, I need to make money. That's a purpose. I want to do what I'm good at, what I like doing, enjoy. But I just can't figure out some way to convince my head, convince my mind that this is something important, or I should be. And, that's where it becomes kind of a chemical thing. I can't if it was just logic and I could kind of convince myself, that would be easy. But it's just like, it would be so much easier to not do it. It'd be easier just to sit back and do nothing. See, that's why it comes off as being lazy. It isn't. So I don't know. I'm struggling with this, folks. I'm telling you, I'm not. Surely you'll understand. Surely strangers who listen to my podcast will understand my deepest feelings and treat them carefully and realistically, and offer suggestions and have compassion. Surely that'll happen. I don't know. I'm sharing it because I got to share it with somebody. I'm still looking, trying to find an answer. I did feel like I should share it because, hey, I don't know, maybe you are too. We kind of are in a climate right now where it's just like, what's the use? A lot of people, I think, are feeling that. So I did feel like maybe I should share it because of that. I'm still looking. I don't have any answers. I'm not going to give you answers. I don't have them. I'm kind of hanging here, folks. I do plan on not spending a lot of time in between episodes here. This was kind of an accident. It's just sort of where I was at the time. I want to apologize, but at the same time, it's life. It happens, okay? I don't want it to be an all the time thing, but at the same time, it's what it is. Things happened. You hear this? You got this podcast. You got this episode. Is it the best one? It might be. It just might be. I don't know. I'm gonna say no, but it's not the worst one, right? Is it? Is it the worst one? Hey, I'm on Blue Sky now. If you got a Blue Sky account, feel free to follow me. I got 2 accounts. I got my me account, me, Mr. Me. This guy right here. I got this account, and then I have an account for my cartoon work, and you can follow either one or both if you want. So I know some of you do. I've seen you. I've seen your faces. The important people did. They've already done it, but you can too. I'm kind of still on Facebook, backing off Facebook, backing off Threads a little bit. I just don't like the way they do things. I mean, actually like physical, but maybe you could say political too, behind the scenes. But just the way the software works, the app works, it's hard. It's difficult. Blue Sky's kind of working for me right now. Maybe that's all I need. I got to get some motivation, people. Got to get in there and do and be. All right. See, here's the thing. Sometimes that's all I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my crap with you. Is that okay? Can I just share my crap? Because I feel like we're all going through crap, and sometimes you need somebody to go, oh, wow, that person's going through the exact same crap that I'm going through. He can't afford tickets to Van Halen either. Actually, I could. $11? Heck yeah. You see that? I saw an article where they were going to do a tribute concert for Eddie Van Halen. The Van Halen people were going to get back together. This was an interview with Alex, and David Lee Roth was a jerk. Big surprise, and it got canceled. They didn't do it. I don't know. I wouldn't go see Van Halen without Eddie anyway. But it could have been fun. It could have made some money, a nice little tribute. But somebody had to ruin it for everyone. And now Alex can't play drums. All right. I'm going off. I'm just going crazy. Hey, let's get together next week and have a nice little podcast day. I'll see you then.